Dr. Mahdi Amin, advisor of the acting chairman of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the BNP, is joining us live. Of course, he will give us a sense of what really is the interim government's strategy going forward, given the fact there are a lot of concerns over the condition of minorities and also the economic uncertainty as far as Bangladesh is concerned. Dr. Amin, really appreciate your time on NDTV. My first question to you, Mr. Yunus has vowed an all-inclusive government. What is the party and the interim government strategy to, in a sense, establish an all-inclusive dispensation?
We expect the interim government to create an environment where we all can vote freely in fair and credible national election. It is indeed a transition period for restoring democracy in Bangladesh, and the people of Bangladesh have a unified aspiration to elect a government with a public mandate, which in turn can sustainably ensure that the people's rights and freedoms are protected. In the short run, it is imperative for the interim government to make necessary changes in the administration. We have seen in last 16 years how the Awami League regime politicized all layers of the state apparatus by appointing party affiliates and beneficiaries in key positions across the hierarchy. So there has to be an urgent action plan to undertake structural and personal changes in the administration. We've already seen that there are changes taking place, but there are still many crucial positions held by the patronizers of the previous regime. So while being greatly appreciative, we would urge, if possible, for an acceleration in the ongoing changes on the government side.
All right, you talked about restoring democracy, but democracy can be restored in the real sense only when there is a level playing field for all political parties. An allegation that, your party and so many other opposition parties, erstwhile opposition parties have made, that there was no level playing field. How do you assure various smaller parties, even in Bangladesh, that there is going to be that level playing field?
Well, now is the time for unity. We have come to a tipping point where, in the face of autocracy versus democracy, it essentially became Awami League versus Bangladesh. There is an incredible lot of both illegal and licensed guns with the Awami League terrorists, which should be revoked and taken back. We have experienced 16 years of human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, mass arrests, torture in detentions, and fabricated cases against 6 million people. These false cases need to be addressed, and genuine cases for gross human rights violations should be filed. The recent massacre in July and August, which caused thousands of deaths, countless injuries, and targeted arrests, must be investigated fairly and independently. The people of Bangladesh seek meticulous investigation and appreciate the proactive role of the United Nations. Those responsible should be held accountable, and the victims should get full support from the government, including compensation, help to recover, and promise that such violence will not happen again in Bangladesh. In terms of politics, whether we are big or small party, we all want constructive politics. A politics that's based on merit, not nepotism. A politics that's based on policies, not power. And a politics that's based on unity, not vengeance. Together, we all need to rebuild the nation with great policies and a societal harmony.
So that's an important point you're making, but it's not just about political parties. It's also about reinstating the faith in various institutions. Of course, what we saw in the Supreme Court with so many students ghirawing the Supreme Court, forcing the Chief Justice to step down. So whether it's the Supreme Court or the Election Commission, these institutions have lost trust in people. How do you plan to restore that?
Right, that's a great question. Basically, the situation where we're right now, the society needs stability. We need to support the interim government in every possible way for making the necessary changes in the state institutions. This includes the Election Commission, Judiciary, Field Administration, Law Enforcement Agencies, Anti-Corruption Commission, and the list goes on. The main goal of the interim government should be to return the electoral power to the people, which they rightfully deserve, but was deprived over a decade and a half. The 120 million voters who want to vote and elect a government of their own choice after this democratic transition finishes. The BNP believes the interim government will undertake all the tasks required to facilitate that precious, free, fair, and credible election at the soonest. We also believe an elected government with legitimacy and mandate will establish good governance, public accountability, and the rule of law in Bangladesh. But as you said, in order to achieve this, we need to get the institutions right in the first place. Almost all the top appointments in the last 16 years in state institutions were based on political grounds. The Election Commission itself is a glaring example, as evident in the personal backgrounds and the reflected in the words and actions taken by most of their members. The interim government must remove and replace all the individuals who have proven track record of affiliation or allegiance with the Awami League. They should promote neutral and patriotic individuals from the public service and the civil society who have been suppressed in many years for not obeying the illegal orders of the regime or for not complying to act against the interests of the people. For us, we believe this is the time for all the pro-democracy stakeholders to step in and serve the nation with distinction by being neutral, being objective, and for the cause of restoration of democracy in the country.
All right, and my last question to you, Dr. Amin, and it's a two-part question. One, of course, on the situation of minorities, because that, of course, is of huge concern to India, to New Delhi, and also the larger foreign policy, the larger neighborhood policy going forward, given the fact that India and Bangladesh have, of course, been really close allies. We have a long-standing history, and it is a relationship that has benefited both the countries.
So let me start with the minority issue because that's more current. The recent investigations, if we see, by major media outlets like Al Jazeera, BBC, DW, AFP, the local newspaper Pratham Alo, along with many fact checkers, found that the false information about minority repression in Bangladesh is surfacing on social media. These claims of communal violence are based on misleading images, including some from past incidents even in India. No verified reports of rape, temple destruction, or religiously motivated attacks have been found in Bangladesh. It's a distorted narrative aiming to circulate disinformation about the country. In reality, most violence has targeted Muslim homes, particularly those of the Awami League leaders and activists, in retaliation for the gross human rights violations against the ordinary people that they conducted in the last 16 years. Fact checkers from various platforms have confirmed that the unrest is politically motivated rather than being religious. Only a few Hindu families of the Awami League have been affected, while attacks on Muslims have been far more significant in terms of number. After 5th August, after the collapse of the Awami League government, when Bangladesh was without police presence for about 2 weeks, the BNP, as the political party, reflecting the will of the people, mobilized all members of the party from the grassroots to the top leadership to proactively maintain the law and order situation across the country. Our activists worked to protect homes, places of worship, and the general well-being of Muslim and Hindu communities alike with the same commitment and without any division whatsoever. The fact is, the BNP doesn't even endorse the concept of minority. We believe that our leader has repeatedly said that regardless of religion, creed, or class, we are all proud Bangladeshis, united in our shared identity, having the same rights, having the same freedoms, and having the same dignity. Desires of the people by prioritizing their interests and aspirations. It's connected with the people. We will align economically and strategically with democratic nations, institutions, and development partners worldwide. Adhering to the rules-based international order, we will promote good governance, we'll promote human rights, we'll promote labor rights, and we'll promote the rule of law while following the international conventions that a truly democratic and accountable government should follow.
Dr. Amin, thanks very much for being with us. Really appreciate your time.